70,000 men die in a single afternoon. Not in a siege lasting months. Not in a campaign spanning years. In one afternoon, on one field, in southern Italy, the Roman army suffers the single worst defeat in its history. A defeat so catastrophic that senators in Rome begin discussing whether the city should be abandoned entirely. The men do not die charging into enemy spears, they die standing still, packed so tightly together by an encircling enemy that they cannot raise their weapons, cannot turn, cannot breathe. They suffocate and bleed pressed against the men beside them, who are dying in exactly the same way. The man who does this to them is the same man who crossed the Alps with 37 elephants 3 years earlier. He has been waiting for this moment since before he left Carthage. And what he is about to do on the plains of Cannae is so perfectly executed that military commanders study it 2,000 years later as the most complete tactical victory in the history of warfare. By the end of this video, you will understand why the Battle of Cannae is still taught at military academies around the world today, and why every general who has attempted to replicate it has failed. You will learn why Hannibal deliberately made his own center weak, and how that weakness became the deadliest trap in military history. You will learn why Rome, despite losing more men in one afternoon than the United States lost in the entire Vietnam War, refused to negotiate, refused to surrender, and eventually won the war anyway. And you will learn what Hannibal's greatest general said when told that Cannae had destroyed Rome's army, and why those words sealed Carthage's fate. This is 216 BC, the year the perfect battle happened, and the side that won it lost the war. If you watched this channel's video on 218 BC, you already know how Hannibal arrived in Italy, crossing the Alps with 37 war elephants in winter, losing half his army along the way, arriving with perhaps 26,000 men. What happened next defied every expectation. At the Trebia River, he destroyed a Roman army. At Lake Trasimene, he ambushed and annihilated another. Rome responded by appointing a dictator, Quintus Fabius Maximus, who pursued a strategy of avoiding pitched battle and letting Hannibal wear himself down in hostile territory. It was the correct strategy. It was also deeply unpopular. By 216 BC, political pressure has forced Rome to abandon it. 2 new consuls are elected, commanding the largest army Rome has ever assembled. They will meet Hannibal in open battle and destroy him. They do not destroy him. The Roman force that marches to meet Hannibal at Cannae in August 216 BC is extraordinary by any standard of the ancient world. 8 legions, roughly 86,000 men in total, including allied troops, assembled in one place, under 2 consuls who share command on alternating days. The sheer numerical advantage is overwhelming. Hannibal's army numbers somewhere between 40 and 50,000 men. The Romans outnumber him nearly 2 to 1. Roman military doctrine at this time is straightforward and has worked reliably for generations. Mass infantry in the center, heavy and deep. Place cavalry on the flanks. Advance. The weight and discipline of the Roman infantry, pressed forward in concentrated mass, will punch through the enemy center. The cavalry will prevent the enemy from escaping. Victory follows. It has always worked. There is no reason to believe it will not work here. One of the 2 consuls, Gaius Terentius Varro, is particularly confident. He has a numerical advantage. He has the finest infantry in the world. He has Hannibal cornered near the Aufidus River with limited room to maneuver. He is about to make the worst military decision of the ancient world. Hannibal looks at the Roman army and sees not a superior force, but a predictable one. He knows exactly what the Romans will do: mass their infantry in the center and advance. He places his weakest troops, Gallic and Spanish infantry, at the center of his line in a convex bulge pointing toward the Romans. On either side, he places his best African veterans. On the flanks, his cavalry. Numidian light horse and heavy Iberian and Gallic cavalry. The Roman commanders see a weak center, ripe for attack. What they do not see is that the weak center is not a vulnerability. It is bait. On the morning of August 2nd, 216 BC, the two armies form up on the plain. The Romans mass their infantry even deeper than usual. Varro, seeing Hannibal's weak center, wants to concentrate maximum weight for the breakthrough. The Roman cavalry takes its position on both flanks. The battle opens with cavalry engagements on both flanks. On the Roman right, Hannibal's heavy cavalry smashes into the Roman cavalry and destroys it almost immediately. The Romans have their cavalry outmatched in quality, and the engagement is brief and brutal. On the Roman left, the Numidian light horse engages the Allied cavalry in a prolonged, swirling fight, designed not to win immediately, but to keep the Allied cavalry occupied. In the center, the Roman infantry advances toward Hannibal's Gauls and Spaniards. The center holds initially, then it begins to give way. Slowly, deliberately, the Gallic and Spanish infantry fall back, not in rout, not in panic, but in a controlled retreat that maintains formation. The Romans press forward, certain they are breaking through. They are not breaking through. They are being swallowed. As the Roman center pushes deeper into the retreating Carthaginian line, the convex bulge that Hannibal's center formed at the beginning of the battle slowly inverts, becoming concave, curving inward around the advancing Romans. On both sides, Hannibal's African veterans, who have been standing still waiting, now pivot inward. They advance against the Roman flanks that are completely unprotected because the Roman soldiers in the center have been pressing forward and have lost their cohesion. At the same moment, Hannibal's heavy cavalry, having destroyed the Roman cavalry on the right flank, rides behind the entire Roman formation and crashes into the Allied cavalry on the left, the cavalry that the Numidians have been keeping occupied. The Allied cavalry collapses and flees. The Roman army is now completely surrounded on every side. What happens next is not a battle. It is a compression. The encircled Roman army, somewhere between 50 and 70,000 men pressed into an ever-shrinking space, cannot fight effectively. There is no room to swing a sword. There is no room to throw a pilum. There is barely room to breathe. The Carthaginian forces press inward from every direction simultaneously, tightening the circle. Roman soldiers are killed not primarily by sword strokes, but by the pressure of the crowd itself. Men pushed off their feet, trampled, suffocated by the bodies pressing against them. Contemporary accounts describe soldiers so tightly packed that the wounded could not fall. Dead men remained upright, held in place by the bodies around them. The killing takes hours. It is not a rout. There is nowhere to rout to. It is a systematic destruction of an army that cannot move, fight, or escape. By evening, estimates suggest between 50 and 70,000 Romans and Allied soldiers are dead. Among them, one of the two consuls, Lucius Aemilius Paulus, who dies fighting. 80 Roman senators die at Cannae. 29 of the 48 tribunes who commanded the legions die at Cannae. Hannibal walks the field afterward. He has just killed more men in a single afternoon than Rome has ever lost in any battle before or since. After Cannae, Hannibal's greatest cavalry commander, Maharbal, comes to him with a proposal. "Give me the cavalry," Maharbal says. "Let me ride for Rome now, while the city is in shock. In 5 days, you will dine on the capital." Hannibal declines. He needs to consolidate, resupply, assess the political situation. He believes Rome's Italian allies will now defect to him. He believes the political pressure on Rome will force a negotiation. Maharbal's response is recorded by the Roman historian Livy. "You know how to win a victory," he says. "You do not know how to use one." It is one of the most famous sentences in military history, and it may be the most accurate. Rome does not negotiate. Rome does not surrender. The Senate meets, absorbs the news, and begins raising new armies. The surviving consul Varro returns to Rome, defeated, humiliated, responsible for the worst military disaster in Roman history, and is formally thanked by the Senate for not despairing of the Republic. What happens after Cannae is, in many ways, more extraordinary than Cannae itself. Rome raises new armies, eventually putting more than 200,000 men under arms simultaneously, a mobilization that strains the Republic to its absolute limit. It returns to the Fabian strategy of avoiding pitched battle with Hannibal in Italy. It sends its best general, Scipio Africanus, not to fight Hannibal in Italy, but to attack Carthage's Spanish territories and eventually Carthage itself. The strategy is to strangle Hannibal rather than confront him, to deny him reinforcements, supplies, and the Italian alliance he counted on after Cannae. Hannibal remains in Italy for 15 years after Cannae without winning the decisive political result he needs. His army slowly diminishes. His reinforcements are intercepted. The Italian allies he expected to defect to him after his great victory mostly do not. In 202 BC, 16 years after Cannae, Scipio defeats Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in North Africa. Carthage surrenders. The war is over. The man who executed the most perfect battle in military history, who killed 70,000 Romans in an afternoon, who marched an army through the Alps with 37 elephants and spent 15 years undefeated in Italy, dies in exile, eventually taking poison to avoid being handed over to Rome around 183 BC. What makes 216 BC extraordinary is the combination of what happened at Cannae and what happened after it. The battle itself is studied today as a template. The double envelopment, the deliberate sacrifice of the center, the simultaneous cavalry strike from behind. Every generation of military commanders since has tried to replicate it. Few have come close. But Cannae also teaches something military academies sometimes forget. Winning the perfect battle is not the same as winning the war. Hannibal's tactical genius was without equal. His strategic vision fell short. Rome's response to Cannae is as remarkable as the battle itself. A republic that lost more men in one afternoon than the United States lost in Vietnam thanked its surviving consul for not giving up and started raising new armies. That is not a normal response to catastrophe. It is the response of something that has decided it cannot be destroyed. Hannibal was right. Rome could be beaten on the battlefield. What he did not fully understand was that Rome had decided the battlefield was not where the war would be decided. 216 BC. The year the most perfect battle in military history was fought, and the side that won it went on to lose the war, while the side that lost it thanked its surviving general for not giving up and built 200,000 more soldiers to replace the ones that died. If this story made you think, leave a comment. Do you think Hannibal was right? Could Hannibal have taken Rome if he had marched immediately after Cannae? Subscribe to the Vault of Numbers. Every week, one number, one story history forgot to tell you. The next number in the vault? A king took 300 men to a narrow mountain pass. He knew they would not come back. He went anyway. The vault remains open.